how the track cars
here at the Hungaroring first race on this Hungarian track just outside Budapest.
Swift Cup Europe mezőnye tehát eljött a bemelegítő körre. Arról még nem beszéltünk, hogy ebben a kategóriában, illetve ebben a bajnokságban ugye két külön kategória van. Ennek az egynégyes Swift-nek, az egynégyes Swift-nek beszéltünk. Most viszont kicsit szó.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in Hungary at the Hungaroring race circuit just outside the country's capital city Budapest. We are about to start our Saturday's racing program with the first race of the weekend in terms of the Swift Cup Europe Challenge, and the cars have already completed the formation lap and are returning back to the starting grid to form up on their positions that they got after qualifying. Again, we should have two categories, Swift Sport 1.4 and Swift Sport 1.6. So 21 drivers, or actually 22, should be on the grid for today's race, and it is Max Wimmer from Austria on pole, and right alongside him, this man, Dominik Haselsteiner, in the car number 114. It looks like everybody's already prepared on the starting grid, so we are waiting for the green flag to be waved and then for the starting lights to go out. As soon as that happens, we will be racing here in Hungary on this pretty cold and damp morning. And that's a little weird. What is now happening on the starting grid? Because it looks like there's some kind of a problem, really. And yellow flags are being waved. Everybody's seemingly re-entered another formation lap, so there's a bit of a chaos on the starting grid. Really, we're trying to read this situation just like you. So apparently we are having another formation lap here in Hungary, 4.3 kilometer, let's say 4,381 meters. That's the length of the circuit. And although this season has been special, let me say, because of the coronavirus pandemic, not a lot of racing has happened in the first part of the year. The second half of it is, let's say, pretty hectic. And when it comes to Hungaroring, it already saw things like Formula One Grand Prix earlier on in the year. But lately, it's also been pretty busy because last weekend we had a pretty busy race weekend with the World Touring Car Cup Championship round and also the European Truck Racing alongside each other on the same weekend. So a lot of action for the home fans, although still under certain circumstances or under current circumstances, fans cannot be present on the racetrack, which is a big shame, of course. But anyway, we are so happy that you can watch the racing at least with us here over the internet. So last weekend we had the World Touring Car Cup here with all the very world-renowned drivers and also the European Truck Racing Championship. Some of the drivers remained here in Hungary and will be on display later on during the weekend. So a lot of exciting stuff to be looking forward to today and also tomorrow. So the Swifts have now nearly finished another formation lap. There must have been some kind of a technical trouble for some of the drivers. We saw the yellow flags being frantically waved from the pit wall, and that only tells you that very probably one of the drivers ran into trouble and gesticulated back to the pit wall to indicate that they have some kind of trouble and will not be able to take the start, which would, of course, have created a dangerous situation, because if you remain stationary on the starting grid right at the start and you've got at least half a field right behind you, then in that created chaos it could really easily happen that somebody crashes into you completely unsighted at full speed, and that's always something that we like to avoid if possible. So cars back on the starting grid after another formation lap. These are the older Swifts racing in the lower category, the SCE 1.6. Or let me say Swift Cup Europe 1600, and we are racing here in Hungary. So should be 25 minutes if I'm right, but it looks like 2 minutes have already been deducted from the race time. So let's just go on with the racing action. Coming into the first corner, everybody being very close to each other, but no contact made. So that's a good job from everyone right from the beginning. And it should be Max Wimmer leading from pole in front of his teammate, Dominik Hasselsteiner, car number 114. Still the weather in Hungary not exactly perfect. It is pretty cold and also foggy. Which makes the job ever so hard for everybody. And and it should be cloudy all through the day today. However, tomorrow we're expecting rain. There's a 60% chance of rain for tomorrow's racing action. So we saw Adam Lengyel, one of the leaders in the lower 1.6 category, and we are finishing the first lap of the racing action. We are completing the first racing lap with Max Wimmer still holding on to that first place in front of his teammate. Whole field trying to spread out a little bit more, and there is a battle in the background there. Oh, this is really nice. That's a battle for fourth. So let me see, that should be Matej Banaš, one of the local drivers, fighting it out with presumably Gábor. The car number 510 driven by Kamil Serafin in a close battle with Fabian Orfandl. Fabian Orfandl, very nice try around the outside into the chicane. Beautiful stuff going on there. Matej Banaš currently losing in his battle for fourth. And this is a three-way battle towards the end of the first, or the top 10, let's say. We are completing lap number 2 here in Hungary. Ooh, and look at that. The modern road cars have this safety feature. When you brake too hard in them, they flash the hazard lights. And that's exactly what's been happening in the leading car of this small group, or let's say pairing. We are on the third lap of the race, and the whole field sort of nicely spread out, sorry, around this track, and we keep on watching beautiful battles within the top 10. That is Fabian Orfandl in that white and yellow liveried car, being followed by his opponent right behind him. That should be Christoph Zellhofer. Yes, it is. And I need to say that Christoph Zellhofer must have had a brilliant start, because we had him only down in 11th on the starting grid, but yet currently he's already up into the top 10. So good job by Christoph Zellhofer, one of many Austrians here in the field. And now Christoph Zellhofer losing one place to Kamil Serafin. Kamil Serafin has not been doing pretty well. Oh, there's a crash in the first corner. That's the car number 196, and that is Günther Eddenstöckel. Günther Ehrenstöckl in a collision with one of his opponents, and his car looked damaged, probably not seriously. There was the front bumper hanging off, and we need to see if he can continue in this race. Oh, look how crazy it is and how hard it is to stay in line, because the track is really cold. There's really low grip from the tires, and that means that you're basically constantly drifting your car into the corners. They are also a little bit oversteery on the corner entries, and the drivers having to wrestle their cars. Okay, let's take a look at this replay. There was a car number 1, there's a crash in one, which should be Philipp Dietrich. So a collision there, and it looks like now Günther Ehrenstöckl, his day is now going from bad to worse. He was starting P8, however he fell down the order, and I believe that was another car, another driver who's already having to retire his car from this race. So might have been actually Philipp Dietrich who made contact with Günther Ehrenstöckl there. Alright, so we keep on racing here. Car number 146 of Fabian Orfandl, now having to defend from Kamil Serafin. Kamil Serafin, he was 4th on the starting grid, however fell way down the order, and now he's having to fight his way back up. And he's doing exactly that. He's trying to limit the damage in this race, and he's just overtaken Fabian Orfandl, I believe, for 5th position, 5th or 6th place. It's hard to say currently. My live timing not working properly, really. So just having to focus on what we can read out of the stream. But it needs to be said that this race has been started in a pretty nice, brisk tempo. So really, the drivers fighting it hard there in Hungary. And we still have the drivers from the Team Wimmer Werk Motorsport, Watersport, if you like. Max Wimmer and Dominik Hasselsteiner leading the race, and still holding on to that 1-2 for the Austrian team. They dominated qualifying yesterday when Max Wimmer set a lap of 2 minutes 9 seconds, 0.195. He was some 0.6 of a second quicker than his teammate Dominik Hasselsteiner, and over a full second quicker than a nearest competitor from another team, which was Matej Banaš in 3rd, starting for his GFS Motorsport Egyesület. But it looks like the 1-2 for the Team Wimmer Werk Motorsport is going to be short-lived, because they are currently under huge pressure from behind. There it is, there's the battle for second. That's what we want to see, because this is going to be pretty dramatic there. And that's one of the local guys, 512, that's Gábor Tim. He's been doing pretty well, having started 5th. He's now up to 3rd, and he is fighting for podium positions. So Gábor Tim, he definitely has extra motivation. I mean, we've already mentioned that, sadly, also this weekend needs to do without fans, without spectators on the grandstands, but still a home victory or home success of any sort is somewhat sweeter. And Gábor really trying to find his way past Dominik Hasselsteiner. He is, need to be said, glued to that rear bumper of that white and orange Swift, number 114, driven by Dominik Haselsteiner. It is the Austrian fortress right in front of the local boy Gábor, who's fighting really hard to break into it. And he's navigating his yellow Swift very swiftly, we can jokingly say. Around those tight and twisty corners of Hungaroring, which is also being called the Mickey Mouse track. Mickey Mouse track sometimes, as it's really twisty. There are not a lot of places where you can actually overtake, let's say in open wheel or single-seater cars. However, in these little Swifts, you can pretty much stick your front end in front of your opponent pretty much anywhere you like, as long as you're brave enough and you really believe that you can get away with it. First corner is a good overtaking opportunity, but those Swifts do not reach very high top speed down the straights. So not a lot of aerodynamic help for them there. Slipstreaming, of course, working here in the Swift Cup as well, but because we're not reaching very high speeds, then the effect of the slipstream is definitely not so high. Ooh, that was a bit of a sideways moment there for Gábor. Looking really hairy, but managing to stay the right way up and facing the right way. And also amazingly staying in touch with Dominik Haselsteiner. The entry list is a mix of Austrians and also local Hungarian drivers. There are a couple of Poles, one of them being Kamil Serafin and the other one Alex Sofka. But Alex Sofka, we have him in the lower 1.6 category. And that's about it for the nationalities. We've had 22 cars in the starting field. 21 of them qualified for this race. Sadly, Zoltán Bernát didn't manage to start into the qualifying, so he was left with no time. But also, the stewards have been pretty busy, or were busy, during and after the qualifying, because they were deleting times for exceeding track limits, and 9 drivers got their lap times deleted after qualifying. Gábor still following Dominik Haselsteiner really closely, but Dominik Haselsteiner doing an amazing job for his team and for his teammate, because he's definitely not letting Gábor into any chances. He's not making any mistakes, although he is under huge pressure from the local guy. However, he is allowing his teammate Max Wimmer to run away with it, and Max Wimmer enjoying a healthy gap in front of these two. It's only a couple of seconds, but for him it is very important that he is not being under pressure, he is not being attacked, and he can mainly focus on the road that's ahead, whereas Dominik Haselsteiner is having to hassle, let's say. His focus is because he obviously needs to be looking where he's going, but also he's got to check his rear view mirrors every so often and just see for himself if Gábor is not trying anything opportunistic. As said, aerodynamics not being very effective in the Swift Cup, so basically handling is the main priority and is the main characteristic in this championship. That is your way forward, and drivers wrestling the cars in every single corner, wrestling the oversteer. So, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. They are having to fight the cars. They are having to work it a lot and put in a lot of opposite lock on their steering wheels to prevent the car from spinning. And now it looks like Gábor has managed to get himself a chance there. Ooh, this is really close, and he's almost kissing the rear bumper of Dominik Hasselsteiner. How did these two not collide? I do not know, honestly, because that was really close. I'm a bit surprised that Gábor didn't stick with his chance. It looked very, very realistically to me that he was able to attack down the inside. There was enough space for him, and even if it didn't work in the end, he could still get away with it and still remain in touch with Dominik Hasselsteiner. But maybe he tried to avoid any wrongdoing, and in the end he simply chose the outside line, which was immediately after that also chosen by Dominik Hasselsteiner, and they nearly collided. So, as we say, Gábor was not only braking with his feet but also with his eyes and with his faith, maybe. Ooh, this is a car number 505, one of the slower Swifts from the 1.6 class, and that was Balázs Hartmann facing the wrong way in the first corner in the runoff area. So either he lost it on his own, or there was some kind of a battle with somebody else, and Balázs Hartmann ended up in the runoff area. Again, the hazard lights being flashed on the cars. Yeah, and that's Balázs Hartmann, already in hands of the track marshals. So he's pulled aside, at least that he managed, but it looks now like he's not going to finish this race. Gábor having his chance, but again, exactly the same thing like on the previous lap. It looked like there was going to be a chance for Gábor down the inside. However, Dominik Hasselsteiner managed to sort of swing the back end of his Swift right in front of Gábor enough to, let's say, make him fear that it's not going to work, and Gábor bailed out of that chance. He ended up trying it around the outside, but he was no way near completing that pass around the outside. He was still not even, let's say, halfway alongside Dominik Hasselsteiner. Next chance might be coming up here into the chicane, but still, look at that. Not, yeah, Gábor not, let's say, confident enough on the brakes. And his car looking way more lively than the white and orange machine right in front of him. Sliding really a lot. And I'm still amazed that he has not lost it yet.
There's still a big fight between Dominik Hasselsteiner and Gábor for second position. Gábor is still
the local commentator also enjoying this battle that we have been watching together here. And how sideways he always ends up being, Gábor. But still, amazingly, even though he's pretty much racing door ahead into the corners, he still manages pretty good exits. So good job from him. So let's now stick with the inside line yet again. Gábor Ooh, but he is forcing Dominik Hasselsteiner into a mistake. And there's a space opening up down the inside, but still it looks like Dominik Hasselsteiner is going to run away with it. Now Gábor Tim all the way around the outside, but he would have to be so much quicker and find so much extra grip there. And simply, under these conditions, under this temperature and with the weather still being pretty foggy, the grip is just not plentiful there. Ooh, but another try around the outside into the 5. That's a brilliant try. Very nice maneuver, and it looks like Gábor Tim will manage to stay at least alongside Dominik Hasselsteiner. Now they're both breaking into the chicane. You saw the hazard lights again, so both drivers extremely late on the brakes, extremely hard on them. Ooh, and there's another try. Still, Gábor Tim remaining behind Dominik Hasselsteiner. Not sure if Hasselsteiner is wiping his windscreen on purpose, or he's just been so busy and pushing every button, pulling every lever in his car that he accidentally set his wipers on. Yeah, look at this again. That was a very, very nice battle there from Gábor Tim. And surprisingly, he did manage to get around the outside in the 5th corner, right alongside Dominik Hasselsteiner, but then he didn't complete that overtake into the chicane. Car number 586, that's Alex Sofka, one of the 2 Polish drivers, and this is the end of the race. So Max Wimmer victorious here in Hungary for the first race of the day. And in the end, it is 1-2 for the Austrian team Wimmer Werk Motorsport. So Dominik Hasselsteiner withstanding that massive pressure from the local man Gábor Tim. But Gábor Tim, anyway, I think he can be happy with his performance because he was 5th on the starting grid. Now he ends up on the podium, and he provided a beautiful, beautiful show for us. So he will definitely be positively remembered after this race. So hats off to Gábor Tim. That was a brilliant, brilliant race, and a little bit of a shame for him that it didn't work out in the end, and he didn't manage to get that 2nd place off the hands of Dominik Hasselsteiner. However, anyway, that was a brilliant display of racing action. So those are the podium places. Swift Cup category. In the Swift Cup Europe Championship. So I hope that you've enjoyed the first race with us together. I think it's been a nice wake up into the racing day or the racing weekend. Suzuki Swift drivers providing beautiful action there, and we can only be looking forward to the rest of the day. So what are we going to see during the day under the Asset Cup Series? We are going to witness the final round of DCR Eastern Europe. There's also lots of other racing action like GT's one endurance race that's going to be held for over an hour.